And Heavy, the most powerful of all operational rockets, is launching again very soon. Let's dive right in. Starship updates. The Starship launch site is getting crowded. Starships 24 and 25 and Booster 7 and 8 all are at the launch pads in Boca Chica at the same time. SpaceX is ready. Then what's the holdup? October 20th. SpaceX stacks Ship 24 onto Booster 7. Again. It's not entirely clear why SpaceX destacked the two, but it's likely due to something not being perfect on the stack or the vehicles. Whatever it was though, SpaceX fixed it and stacked the two again. Ready for action now? Not entirely. I have no insights into the requirements for a flight-worthy Starship, but Ship 24 is not entirely perfect. It's got character, if you know what I mean. Mauricio was out and about together with Chief when SpaceX stacked Ship 24 again and took these images. Ship 24 under the skirt. 3 vacuum Raptor engines and 3 for sea level propulsion. Different engine bell size because of the difference in atmospheric pressure on the ground compared to in space. We can even take a peek at the engine bay shielding between the 6 engines. This all very much looks like flight-worthy hardware except for one thing. Take a closer look at the sea-level engines in the center, the one furthest away especially. It clearly has a massive dent on the side of the engine bell. This might be nothing. I've never had to clear a Raptor engine for a flight to space. If I had to, I likely wouldn't though. What's also concerning is that the visible cable work inside the skirt looks charred and half destroyed. Again, this might be okay, but it does look concerning. It's early prototyping, and that's what that looks like at Starbase. After all, SpaceX is trying to do everything differently here. Imperfect rockets that can take a beating. A complete 180-degree turn from what can be seen with traditional rocket manufacturing. It doesn't matter much if Ship 24 is not flying though, because this is not Ship 24. It's Ship 25 and it was rolled out to the launch site on October 19th. Ready for some action and very good looking. By now, it's been stacked onto suborbital pad A, likely awaiting first cryogenic tests and subsequently static fires. SpaceX's production pipeline is full steam ahead with 6 different Starships either in production or ready for testing and flights. Thank you, Mauricio. If you want to become a flight supporter, head over to his Patreon page. A link is in the description. Another friend of mine, Marcus House, got one of those precious Elon replies on Twitter. He asked the question I've been wondering about as well. Will Ship 24 fly to space with Booster 7? Elon's response? That's the plan, unless it is damaged in testing. What really matters is that ship and booster production line is spooling up. Also, each new ship and booster have incremental design improvements. I pointed it out several times in recent episodes. There is a noticeable increase in production output at Starbase, and we know thanks to Chief, our YCAM operator in Boca Chica. Funded by Patreon money, he is out there every day taking these kinds of pictures for us. This is Ship 27's nose cone and it has tons of interesting changes. Looking at the label shot, we can see that this nose cone was started on September 15th, so 6 weeks ago. It is nose cone number 28 for Ship 27. Practice builds confidence. Another excellent video from Chief shows Ship 26 nose cone stacked on top of its upper fairing section and going back into the high bay. We still don't know what exactly it will be for, as it's missing a heat shield. Time will tell. All these pictures and videos are sponsored directly by you, by your likes, subscriptions, and by you becoming a patron. Take a moment, hit the like button and subscribe and ring the bell if you haven't done so yet, and help us create What About It. Thank you. On we go with a cryo test on Ship 24 and Booster 7. Monday, October 24th. SpaceX is reaching another very important milestone. A first full-stack cryo test with the latest generation prototypes. Lower and upper quick disconnects are working together. Liquid nitrogen is pouring into both the ship and booster liquid oxygen tanks. SpaceX uses liquid nitrogen for these tests as it is inert. Strong venting can be seen while the tanks slowly begin to fill up. It's fascinating to see Mechazilla work. Kilometers of pipes are working together. Hundreds of sensors and valves work together in harmony to make these kinds of tests possible. And as it seems, nothing went wrong. It wasn't a full cryogenic test, as the methane tanks were likely just pressurized to increase stability but not filled. Nonetheless, this was a very important milestone. SpaceX will now analyze data and draw conclusions from it. If everything went right, the next step would be a complete fill. After this, one or multiple static fires with the booster would need to be done while the Starship is stacked. And then, the orbital test flight. As said before, it's not entirely clear if Ship 24 will be the one or if the newly arrived Ship 25 will take over. By the way, if you want to see more of Chief's work, head over to Y+ and subscribe or follow Chief and me on Twitter, it's worth it. And here's another one, funded by our patrons, the PEZ dispenser. Yep, that's the official name for it. It's SpaceX's first design idea for a Starlink version 2 satellite dispenser. This is Ship 27, and from the looks of it, it will likely use the payload dispenser too. The dispenser hardware rendered by Ova from SpaceX 3D creation Eccentric before can be seen on the inside. While Ship 24's payload door was welded shut, making an actual payload for the first flight very unlikely, Ship 27 is clearly going a different route. A route not only to orbit, but to make starships useful. The best invention is not worth much if it's not useful. SpaceX is desperately waiting for the first Starlink version 2 satellites to arrive in orbit, as they are needed for the next steps for this largest satellite communication network ever built. Speaking of not much used inventions, Falcon Heavy is about to launch. This is it, the moment many SpaceX fans have been waiting for so long. Falcon Heavy rolling out to the launch tower at Pad 39A. The footage was live broadcasted by Spaceflight Now, and hundreds of people were watching together with me. Hundreds of people for a rollout. That's something we're only used to with Starships. But being second by interest to SpaceX's Starship is not bad at all. Falcon Heavy is a fascinating rocket, and now it's finally going to fly again. 3 launches so far since 2018, that's not much at all. It's been more than 4 years since the first test flight. To put it into perspective, the Boca Chica starbase wasn't a starbase back then. It looked like this. No starships, no boosters, no nothing except for a dirt hill. And we watched this. Man, that was good. What's better than a Falcon 9? 3 of them strapped together to form a Falcon 9 on steroids. Heavy fits it. My friend Tony Bela made the perfect illustrations. Let's give it some labels, shall we? 362.6 tons of liquid oxygen combined, 155.8 tons of RP1 kerosene, nitrogen gas thrusters and grid fins for attitude control of all 4 vehicle stages. Being the world's most powerful operational rocket, it has 1,550 tons of total thrust at sea level, 70 meters tall and 12.2 meters wide. Damn, that thing's good. 27 Merlin engines combined in 2 side cores and 1 center core. Payload to LEO, 63.8 tons. Payload to Mars transfer orbit, 16.8 tons. And to Pluto, still 3.5 tons. $97 million in launch costs if reusable. Dirt cheap in today's launch business. 2 more launches followed after the test launch. Arabsat 6A on April 11, 2019. Only roughly 6.5 tons. Constructed by Lockheed Martin, Falcon Heavy was chosen because even with 6.5 tons of payload mass, Heavy is cheaper than most rockets out there. Then came the US Air Force STP or Space Test Program 2 launch. Has it really been more than 3 years since the last Falcon Heavy launch? June 25, 2019. STP being the primary provider of spaceflight for the US Department of Defense, STP-2 was all about loads of small payloads. A ballet-like performance of the upper stage shifting orbit several times during the whole deployment sequence, and last but not least, it was about SpaceX getting the Air Force National Security Space Launch Certification for Falcon Heavy. In fact, it was about the upcoming launch, USS F-44, and many more to come. This mission is Falcon Heavy's first classified payload. Not much is known, only 3.7 tons of payload, but again, much cheaper than the competition. The contract was awarded to SpaceX for roughly 30% of the $440 million a Delta IV Heavy would have cost the US taxpayer. It's hard to compete with reusable rockets. The second stage will head for a direct geosynchronous orbit, and the mission is partly expendable for extra range. The center core is missing legs and grid fins. It will fall into the Atlantic Ocean, whereas the two side boosters will attempt a landing back at Cape Canaveral and at LZs 1 and 2. Fingers crossed, I will definitely be watching. There's one special aspect about this Falcon Heavy. In this picture you can see it. Behind the booster is the upper stage used for this launch, and it has a special feature. See that gray band on the outside? Here, for example, you can see it as well. This is rare. It was featured on 3 Falcon 9 launches before. These pictures are of the CRS-18 resupply mission, and these gray bands are painted onto the upper stage to make it absorb more sunlight in space. When it gets too cold, kerosene, which freezes at a much higher temperature than Falcon Heavy's liquid oxygen, becomes viscous and slush-like before it freezes solid. If ingested, slushy fuel would likely prevent ignition or destroy the upper stage's Merlin engine.
I calls it slushiest.
So by painting the gray band on the upper stage, SpaceX prevents this from happening during the unusually long coast phase between burns. Do you know enough about Falcon Heavy now, and are you excited? I definitely am, and I will cheer for the white giant. The launch will take place at Kennedy Space Center's Pad 39A and is slated for October 31st at 9:44 a.m. Eastern Time or 13:44 GMT. It's heavy time again, don't miss it. I want to thank Tony for the fantastic illustrations I used in this episode. A link to his Patreon and to his Twitter account can be found in the description. Tony, you rock! Today's episode is sponsored by Squarespace, your powerful one-stop tool to connect with your audience. Create a community on your Squarespace website, generate revenue through gated, members-only content, and fuel your projects. Manage members, send email communications, and leverage audience insights. All on one easy-to-use platform. Extend Squarespace's already powerful e-commerce capabilities with Squarespace extensions. These new third-party tools can help you manage inventory, promote products, streamline bookkeeping, reconcile and file sales taxes, and ship products across the globe. Display posts from your social profiles on your website. Automatically push website content to your favorite social media channels so your followers can share it too. Go to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/whataboutit to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. That's it for today. Make sure to check out our Whywear merch store. The Becoming Multiplanetary design was made by Tony. If you want to get even smarter about space and rockets, watch this video next to continue the journey. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again in the next episode. Woo! Mauricio House. Feiert with the boost. Feiert. Jetzt. He becomes vicious.